on paper, it's essentially showing a loss, even though the property didn't lose any money. And what the 100% bonus depreciation is doing, you do a cost segregation study on the property, and that essentially puts a life expectancy on everything, and it's like accounting engineering. And then you'll be able to accelerate all the depreciation, most of it to year one. So instead of depreciating over 27 and a half years or whatever, then you squish it up front. However, there's absolutely, it all depends on the strategy you're doing. I've talked to people that don't do any 100% bonus depreciation, even though it's available now, because they are much more long-term holds. They're looking for 10 plus year holdings. So it wouldn't make sense. It helps the cash flow a little more every year, but even if you own a single family house, I hope you're depreciating it. Most accountants make you do that, because over the term you're owning it, it's dying. But the next person that buys it gets to start over and redepreciate it from there. So,
Dan touched on it in a good way. America's the best country in the world because you can just keep buying things, and every time you buy something, if I buy something, I get to depreciate it. If you buy it from me, you can just start over and depreciate it, right? So, amazing. But on that fact, if you're an active earner and you have a lot of money, up point, so you do a cost segregation study, it's an engineering study where you can classify it, just saying everything's streamlined over 27.5 years, roof, carpet, paint, everything's just streamlined across. They come in there and do a study, and it classifies things into 5, 7, 15-year categories. Maybe the rug's only in the last 5 years. You can get the roof's going to be 15, the electric's going to be 7. And on that point, you can choose how you want to take those depreciations. You want to do it in 5, 7, 15-year classifications, or with Trump being this, you could do 100% bonus depreciation in year one, and it's going to come on your hold period. If you're going to sell this in 3 years, you probably don't want to do this because you recapture it. You recapture those losses on the sale. But if you are going to hold this for maybe 10 years, and you do have high active income earners, this is another reason that they'd like to put their money in here. Because say, typically on our deals, we're finding if someone puts $100,000 in, I'm being able to give them a paper loss of $75,000 with the depreciation year one. Just typically.
I think that's the point. That 75,000 is passive loss. You cannot offset your own income.
It depends. Talk to what you have here, but it depends what your holdings are and how you're structured yourself. And if you're an individual, you're an LLC, you're an LP, if you're a trust, how you're investing in the deal, because it's going to structure accordingly from there. But if you are, and say, I do give you $75,000 of losses, but you only have income that can amount to $50,000, you don't lose that $25,000, it rolls to the next year after. So of course you want to set it up, right? If you are an IRA, this depreciation, you're using self-directed IRA for it, the depreciation will not roll through to you. It's not the way that it's set up. But if you were to use a whole like banking system where you're pulling money out from that, it's actually like you're taking a loan and that's your actual cash in your pocket, so you would get the benefits of depreciation. So again, yes, there's tons of benefits that can come from it, but it's going to set up that if you're individual or if you're setting up as an asset to invest in these deals. Cool. Very good.
Are your guys' investments open to accredited or non-accredited investors, and what's the minimums?
So
we could probably just go down the line and say this. Most of my deals have been 506Bs, so need a pre-existing relationship, and open to 35 sophisticated, non-accredited investors and unlimited accredited. Recently I was trying to raise on a 506C, accredited only, which can then be advertised publicly and whatnot. I'm open to both, and I see a lot of people around the country starting to do more 506C, just so because they kind of tapped out their pre-existing relationships and need fresh blood with money because everyone they know already invested with them with no more left. But I'm open to both.
The liability is also less than 506C, or with the 506C, because ultimately you're putting the onus on them completing the questionnaire and other. Where 506B, there's they'll call it gray, but there's a number of different hurdles you want to make sure you're accomplishing, so you're not pitching to people who are maybe not sophisticated and you haven't really set that delineation of who that investor is.
I have nothing to add except that I have invested in 506C myself. I've only raised so far for 506B, but I'm looking to raise for 506C as well.
We've done both, but generally we're 506C, and we're typically just working with accredited investors. When we're not, it's really just to allow like some family and friends that don't fit that profile. But yeah, usually we're with only accredited investors.
We've also done both 506B and 506C. I see the trend leaning more towards 506Cs, and it's simply because it's a lot easier to work with accredited investors, and operators prefer to stick to what's easier. Also, when you're doing accredited only, there is no need to do the verification, so that's another step they want to skip. So that's why the
I
preference.
was just going to add one point on that. If you're doing general solicitation, which we haven't done, other than maybe tonight, maybe viewed as a general solicitation, but in general, it's usually been family and friends, and we're not going out. You actually do have a higher level of responsibility if you're going to go out and general solicit for your own syndications, where there's a higher benchmark. They can self-accredit, but it's on you to get a letter from their accountant, and you have to verify yourself. You have to take some extra steps to make sure that they are in fact accredited, and that can come back to bite you if you don't, and you have to have really good documentation on it. So just keep that in mind. We veered away from actually going out and general soliciting for that reason. You have to have a self-established relationship with those people. There's some gray areas in there, but just kind of food for thought on that.
Yeah, great point. Okay, we got time for one more question. Amen.
What software do you use to analyze deals?
You see that squirrely looking guy with the suit on? Can you stand up?
He's the software.
We'll have to retract the squirrely part.
Oh, just kidding. So we use spreadsheets. Frank actually, it's a crazy story real fast. He's one of 5 guys on the turnaround team for Stuyvesant Town, special servicer. So when Tishman Speyer went belly up, and they repositioned and sold to Blackstone for $5 billion, he was part of that team and built out and analyzed the largest residential asset in the world and was able to successfully turn it around. And so when we joined forces and started, he built out everything, and it's better than Argos and these other things and the way that he sets it up. But so we're just spreadsheet based, but for ourselves.
Great.
We also use the good old Microsoft Excel. It works like magic. What I can add is that when you start out, you use someone else's formulas and calculations, but eventually over time, when you develop an eye for it, you start tweaking the spreadsheet, and eventually you'll come to a point where you want to start from scratch and you want to develop your own, and a lot of people end up doing that.
Awesome. All right, guys. Thank you very much. Give a hand for everybody up there. Cool. So next month, we're going to have Aaron Fragnito here. He's actually brought a 14-unit New Providence to the syndication and talk about a case study, which is great because it was a small raise he talked about. It's here local. So again, you don't have to do this in wherever you want to be, Carolinas, Florida, Texas. He's doing it here locally, so we're going to have that part. So again, got a big room, a lot of people out here. Talk to other people, grow your business. Again, brand yourself. Thanks, guys.
Workshop.
Oh, yeah. I didn't forget. October 12th is our one-day workshop. We haven't done one before. We got a great turnout already. We got. I was able to get more room in the space. We got about 20 tickets left. If you guys are interested in being there. Thank you. Remember, that's it.